This is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach. Let's take a look with a little more detail at the forced monitoring process that I've been talking about for so long. Now, the process itself is called forced monitoring because roaches are forced to show us their pattern. We will know where they are and where they are not thanks to a pesticide-free assessment process. Now, I want you to go to the site before actually going there. So you're going to go before going. Google Earth Pro is how we do that. And I'm sure at this point everybody is intimately familiar with Google Earth Pro. But for those of you that aren't, use this to visit where you're going to be working before you get there so you can get an overview of the situation. In this particular case, near the center of the screen, you see that roach. That's our job site. But we know, because we work in this area, that there are other considerations for German roaches surrounding that may have something to do with the problem that we have where we're going. Now we can zoom in a little bit more, once again with Google Earth, and in this case, we're right on top of a small USDA meat plant with a cockroach problem, mainly concentrated in the area shown toward the middle of the screen with the roach. That is actually the employee locker room and break area and their dining room, so to speak. And this area's got an issue, which is probably leading to other problems within the facility. This is why we were called in. And it's important you understand the dynamics of the situation before you get there. You can't get all this information when you arrive, and it's better to be prepared. Now, you can also get closer with Google Earth. In this shot, this is street view. I'm out in front of the facility, and as you can see, I have a clear view of what's going on, at least at that moment in time, and I can drive around the whole thing virtually. So I can get an idea of the type of area that I'm going to be facing. Now, this is what you're bringing to the client. Don't start thinking all these wonderful ideas of a pest-free environment and everything else, because ultimately in their mind, they have a lot of things to do. What they want is peace of mind and an operator they can trust. They want someone that frankly has got this. That's why you're there. And you're probably there because other individuals in our industry have failed. You have to arrive prepared. A truckload of equipment and things that you need to do the right assessment and with the right attitude to help that client get past what they're dealing with those German roaches. Now, the first thing you want to do after greeting them is review the history. What went on when? This is something that we skip an awful lot. So we end up making mistakes over and over and over because we don't realize what happened before. So sit down for a few moments, find out what's going on, get some idea of the lay of the land, and review the prior service records. Commercial facilities like this, they have them in droves in files. It's not a problem. But you need to find out what happened and what led to you being in there in the first place. Now, this is the most important question you're going to ask them in the assessment process. Where was the last place you saw a roach? Not where the roach is at, because the answer to that is everywhere. If somebody gives you the answer of everywhere, you're going to have a problem. But if you help them focus, understanding they got a lot better things to do than worry about cockroaches, that's why you're there in the first place. So you have to help them focus. Where was the last place you saw? And you'll see a light come on. And you ask the same question to different individuals while you're doing your assessment process, because everybody gets to focus that way. And please understand, as soon as someone says where, then you say, show me. At that point, you've formed a partnership. You're going to be working together. And yes, I know, maybe we don't need to shake hands, so maybe it's an elbow bump. But you're going to form a partnership. And you're going to get together on this because between the two teams, this is going to get fixed. Now, we need to assess and evaluate the site. We've gotten some guidance from the individuals there. We're going through and we're documenting. You can do it electronically. You can do it with a pen and paper. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But make the notes as you go through so you have some idea of the dynamic before we get into the forced monitoring process so we have better guidance for that process. Now, During this time, I'll generally create a map. Now, in my case, it'll be on a pad of paper with a pencil, and I'll draw it as I go through. Of course, they may have site maps available that I can use copies of. That's fine. But this particular map is the work area in question where we were having the roach problem. So we've got it opened up here so we can start documenting onto this map what's really going on. Now, we're going to arrange a time and date for the forced monitoring process. It's best after hours when cleaning and maintenance is done. Do not apply pesticides or bait materials in front of this event. We want these roaches to be normal. We don't want them to be under any stress at all beyond the normal day-to-day activities in the facility. We want them to show us what's really going on. We're going to force them to reveal their pattern. You'll need the right monitoring traps. This is the best monitoring trap on the planet right now. This is the Jfox ProPest RTU insect trap. It is a golden piece of equipment. And what you see here is the top of the device. If we flip it over, you'll find documentation space on the back, as well as very clear instructions on how to set it up. So you can't make too many mistakes here. Just follow the instructions. This device is pre-baited with attractant for roaches and insects. Now, it's set up once you fold it together with a ramp on all four sides. The beauty of this thing is when you take it out of the package, it's flat. You pop it open and then pop those tabs together on the top. All the ramps fold into place. You don't have to crease anything. You don't have to fiddle around with it. You don't have to do anything but remove the release paper and then pop it into shape. The inside of the device, the glue board section, is black. That will help add to the attractiveness because what we're doing is showing these roaches a nutrient-rich environment that's dark. And they're looking at this going, yeah, we want to go in here. And that's exactly what we want. So they're going to reveal to us what the heck's going on at this place. I'm going to make the traps up ahead of time. Keep in mind, this trap makes a target for those roaches. So I go ahead and remove the release paper, fold the devices into shape, and the beauty of the design is they're not going to all get stuck together. And I can put 20 of them in a trash bag. So I'm working in units of 20 to make the process far more manageable. Here's my placement map. I've got a total of 1,764 square feet, so it's not a huge place, but it's divided up to a men's locker room, women's locker room. We have a dining area with tables, and we have the food service items there in the middle, and you'll see some stair steps that go on up to an opening that goes into a hallway that enters the plant. But this area, all those numbers on there, are where we have placed the traps for the assessment based on our prior assessment that we did asking the question, where was the last place you saw a roach? So these traps are now placed for the forced monitoring event, and that's going to take place either overnight for minimum 6 to 8 hour read time or maybe over a weekend. But at any rate, those traps are in place in an unstressed environment. The roaches are going to move around as normal, except there are now 40 opportunities in there to snag roaches. And that's the beauty of this. We're going to find out where they are. So we come in for pickup. Maybe it's the next day and we're faced with something like this. This is great because the target worked. And every one of those insects is out of the game. Now what we have to do is, using these traps with insects in them, is figure out what the heck's going on with the distribution within that space. And we do that by counting up and assessing the catch, which is what I'm doing right here. And you can see my pencil and my yellow legal pad, and I'm making my notes. Now, I'm going to put my counts onto a tally sheet. Across the top here, I've got the ranges and the types of insects. Now, you need to identify 4 different roaches within that group: the males, the females, the nymphs, and the females with egg capsules. The reason for this is they vary in range from the point of capture in every direction. For sake of example, a male cockroach has a range of 12 feet in every direction from point of capture on average. So it's a bubble expanding out from that capture point. The females range 6 feet in every direction, so that's 12 feet across. The nymphs are 12 inches in every direction for a 24-inch bubble, and the females with egg capsules are the same. Now, obviously, you need to be able to tell the difference between male and female roaches. It's pretty simple. The males have a pointy butt section. The females have a wide butt section. Of course, they have to support the weight of the egg capsule. The nymphs are pretty easy. The females with an egg capsule, they're very simple as well. And you're going to put your tallies on this sheet and add everything up. If you have traps with 0, that's fine. It tells you where they are not. All the traps with captures tell you where they are. Now, let's take a look at this map. The only traps shown here are the ones that actually had catches in them. So we can see a pattern immediately. The men's locker room has an awful lot of activity. The women's locker room doesn't have any. There's a section up the top that has quite a bit of activity, but what we have actually going on there is a place where the men, we found out by asking, drop off their backpacks and just let them hang there, and then they go in the locker room. So the men are doing something here that's causing an issue. You can also sort of see where the men like to sit and eat. They like those 2 tables. But I mean, you can see a pattern developing. And that's the beauty of this, because now you can take your control measures that are authorized for this site and be far more surgical in your application. And of course, the beauty of it is every single roach you catch in a trap, as I said earlier, is out of the game, because these traps are targets. They bring them in. Now, remember that slide where I had note this site kind of at the top there in the corner? We now have a site that's roach-free. We've taken care of the problem. But one thing we noted by asking questions and making observations is we have a roach problem over here in this apartment complex. Well, that apartment complex is where the men lived that walked to work. None of the women that worked in the facility lived in that apartment complex, only the guys. They walked to work, backpacks, lunch bags, whatever, and so they were actually bringing the roaches over here. The PMP that serviced the plant, once we established this, went over to the apartment complex and managed to pick up that contract as well. So there's a lot of good information you can gather that can be very, very valuable to you as a pest control operator, because you can figure out what the distribution of these insects actually is, not just within the site, but in other areas as well. These traps are the key. The ProPest RTU insect traps from Jfox are golden. These are an essential tool that belong on every single pest control truck out there, because I'm finding them to be superb to map populations, and in some cases they are actually the tool we use to bring the populations down. They are wonderful. Get them on your truck and use them, and start using these to show far more value to your clients. At the end of the day, you've brought them peace of mind. And that's the whole purpose here, because if you bring peace of mind to this client, you can bring peace of mind to their clients as well, and your list of clients grows dramatically. Your company grows because you're offering peace of mind. You're not just the next pest control operator that fails. You are the one that fixed it. And so with that, this is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach. You folks have a wonderful day. Stay safe in the field.